Welcome to some new r/MaliciousCompliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called I Want a Flatbed. I was a tow truck driver. When I arrived to tow a Toyota FJ Cruiser that was in the ditch, the woman insisted that it couldn't be towed with my equipment. I argued that my wheel lift truck was perfectly suited to it and that a flatbed would take an hour to get it out of the ditch. Oh, I know cars. I worked at a dealership and it will damage the transmission if you tow it with that. I was about to leave for another job, so I didn't really care at this point. I may have sarcastically said, "Oh, I didn't know you were a professional tow truck driver," in the rudest tone I could muster that morning. She looked confused and then angry. She then explained that her brother told her not to let anything but a flatbed tow it. Okay, that explains a lot. I told her that I would call dispatch and have them send a flatbed, but being Sunday it would take a while. I could have had her out in 10 minutes and at the shop in 30 minutes. Another driver called me a few hours later and asked if I was the first one there. He said it took him over an hour to get there and another 45 minutes just to get her out of the ditch. He made the remark that a rear lift would have been perfect for this, and she said that one was already there and she had asked for a flatbed instead. He laughed. On the phone, he said she was pretty upset. Nobody ever said anything to me about being rude to the customer. I guess she didn't report me. The next story is called If You Can't Park. This happened to my father about 25 years ago, but I was there to enjoy it. Looking for a new car, we visited a few local dealerships. After having seen some cars that were within specifications, he fell in love with the brand new Citroën C5. After a test drive, my dad told the salesperson, dealership owner in this case, that he loved the car. But he also had some concerns with visibility regarding parking, because the nose dropped a lot towards the front. It was at the end of the 90s, so parking assist was not yet a common thing and more of a luxury. The owner replied, clearly offended, "If you can't park, you should buy a Mercedes. They have a sight on the front." A man of principles and pride, my father told the man he was taught by his dad to always accept good advice. We walked out without giving the surprised man another look or a chance to respond. Since the car he was driving at the time was still running smoothly, he took his time continuing his search. By pure luck, 2 weeks or so later, he runs into an old friend who tells him he had bought a Mercedes C-Class some months prior but didn't like it as much, the car being a bit too big for him. After some back and forth, they agreed on a price my dad couldn't refuse, especially since this had always been one of his dream cars. About 1 week later, the transfer of ownership was complete and the car had new tags and insurance. The very next morning, we drove to the Citroën dealership, asking the rep on duty to speak to the manager personally. We waited patiently until the man came out of his office. He seemed to remember us, as he gave us his biggest and somewhat arrogant smile. Just to be sure though, my dad reminded him he had been there not long before to buy the C5, but that the kind and honest man had told him to buy a Mercedes instead. Still full of himself, he informed us he remembered and started moving towards the nearest sales office, inviting my dad to discuss the price. My dad told him this was not necessary, since he had wisely accepted the man's advice and pointed outside to the sparkling Mercedes, parked conveniently right in front of the big windows. For the second and last time, the man was left speechless, as we casually walked outside and drove off. The last story is called Sorry, You Have to Call Them. My family runs a small trucking company. Basically, we handle the kind of stuff that you might buy to have delivered to your home or business. Stuff that is too big for someone like UPS to deliver, but not big enough for a tractor trailer to haul, and or stuff that actually needs to be brought into the home and set up, like furniture, appliances, etc. A lot of what we've hauled over the years is stuff going to small stores that can take delivery by a large truck, or construction sites where large trucks can get in and out, neighborhoods and apartment complexes. We don't work for the people buying the stuff, we work for the people selling or shipping it. But as we tend to see the same business owners a lot, we've developed great relationships with them over the years. We don't get rich, but we've been pretty comfortable over the years. Our one major stressor has been a long-time shipper who has, or rather had, become increasingly demanding as time went on. Now, when I say long time, I mean it. We made our first delivery for them over 50 years ago. Our company has been doing business with them longer than any of the current employees or management staff have been there. There was one point where the retired guy who came in a few hours a day to sweep our warehouse because he was bored sitting home knew more about the shipper systems than the senior field rep who was supposed to be supervising our operations. We have been a small but vital part of the network for so long that almost no one there really realized how much we did for them. We've seen field reps come and go. Some have been great, some have been a little challenging, but most of them, once they realized what was going on, largely left us alone to do our jobs. One even called when he took over our area to ask who we were, because his predecessor had no notes on us at all because they'd never had to visit. We've just been, mostly, quietly plugging along, taking care of the customers, in some cases for generations. Well, the latest rep was a generally unpleasant person. He was arrogant, abrasive, and casually insulted our employees. Honestly, it's not worth getting into the minutiae here. He wasn't someone we wanted to work with. But I'm able to put on a happy face and get along with about anyone when needs must, so onward we strode. As I said earlier, the shipper had been getting more and more demanding as time went on. Systems had been getting harder to navigate. Inventory had been getting harder to track. Phone trees had grown into nightmares. More and more layers of bureaucracy had been added, and with every change they'd grown less agile, slower and more difficult to deal with. One day the field rep called because he didn't like how we'd answered an email. Not that we hadn't answered it, just that he didn't like the manner in which it had been answered. After decades of dealing with this shipper, being micromanaged to that level was not something that we were interested in. The manager here, who was dealing directly with him, tried to defuse the situation, but it kept getting worse until the field rep said, "If you aren't happy with the way things are going, maybe you should just quit." Oh, okay then. We started running the numbers, looked at all our other business, decided that we could, indeed, go on without them, and then I called the field rep to have a frank conversation with him. And then I wrote a short, polite, direct letter to our customer of over 50 years telling them that we were firing them. We didn't just pull the plug. We gave them a full 60 days notice, so they'd have time to get something worked out. And they didn't. We've always been here for them. They've never had to worry about it. They had someone they thought was going to be a replacement. But, well, as of today, most of the customers in this area haven't had deliveries in a week, some longer than that. Many don't know when they'll get their next shipment. That field rep might still have a job when all is said and done. But it's not our problem anymore. Our phone keeps ringing, people looking for the freight from that shipper. Sorry, you'll have to call them. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.